Hi, and welcome to another episode of Integrated Science. And today we're going to be just kind of talking about the nuts and bolts of lab safety and procedures, hopefully in the classroom as we kind of move forward with this. We'll get to several different labs. And some of them take quite a bit of time to create, where you'll be using qualitative and quantitative data that we'll talk about as we move forward in the next couple of weeks, and how you can use that data to help drive other information that I'll be using to help kind of describe labs. So you'll hear me use these terms CER quite a bit, and C just stands for claim, E is for evidence, and R is for reason. And so when we do a lab, we're really looking at what is the claim and what is the evidence that we can gather with this. And that's what we're going to kind of talk about today. But hopefully I've been able to go ahead and show you some of the different parts of the classroom. And today we're just going to talk a little bit more about the idea of what are some of the things that I kind of expect from you as a student. So lab safety. We will have to take a test on this afterwards too, so just kind of let you know that it's forthcoming, just so that we make sure that everyone understands all of the rules and requirements. So some of this stuff is in my classroom, some of it's not, but you'll see it throughout your entire career at Connor High School. So we're going to just go over a couple of the more important types of rules that kind of go along with being in the lab when I have lots of students kind of moving around. So the golden rule in all of this is, if you feel that something doesn't seem right, maybe a piece of equipment doesn't seem to be working, you don't know how to use it, you don't feel comfortable using it, you broke something, whatever, tell me. Please tell the teacher. That's the number one rule. So whenever we go through a lab process and you are like, I don't understand the directions or whatever, please tell me, and I will be happy to kind of explain them. We've gone over it probably once or twice, but that's kind of the big one. If you feel like there's a chip in glass that we might be using, such with a beaker or a graduated cylinder, please tell me. These are all really important things that we will kind of keep going over. So the number one rule is clearly to tell me. Some of the other things that are really important is, let's just talk about glassware and breaking things if it were to happen. First off, I do have a glass container, so if something were to get broken, I would like to clean it up, not you. So that would be really important to make sure that you tell me. Normally at that point, when something breaks, everyone stops and looks to see who accidentally did it. Not a big deal, but we'll get it cleaned up. A couple of things is with that, it's always important to know where the safety kit is, and that is in the classroom behind my desk, and I'll make sure I show that to you, but we do have one. And if you ever need anything from there, you just need to ask. Don't go running for it, because it is behind my desk, and that's another one of my classroom rules. It's just me behind the desk, not you. But that is there. The other really important thing to help keep you safe when we have glassware and other types of chemicals out is always make sure that you're following the instructions that I've provided, meaning making sure that you are adding the right amount of material together versus just kind of dumping in and taking a wild guess, and also making sure that you dispose of things properly. There's going to be some things in the classroom that are pretty harmful, such as we'll use sodium chloride, which is just a fancy chemical name for salt, but we also will use bicarbonate sodium, which is another fancy word of baking soda. So sometimes we have to make sure that we understand what we're reading, because I'll write things in the chemical formula for you so that you get used to seeing it that way. So instead of writing just salt on it, you'll see it right in NaCl. So that's kind of going on with this little piece of information right there. The other big things is, once again, is that if you break anything, please just let the teacher, me, know. Even if you feel that it was just like minor something, or if you've cut yourself and it's, you know, it's a minor flesh wound, whatever it may be, please let me know just so that we make sure that we wash it out. And if it feels like I need to send you to the nurse, I can do that. If you spill anything, once again, please let me know. We'll make sure we clean it up properly. Sometimes I might have to put another product down, just kind of depending on what it is. So sometimes I might clean things up with just water. Some things I might clean up with soap and water, kind of just depending on what kind of chemicals we are using or what kind of specimens that we're using for that. If this is integrated, it's going to probably just be water. If it is geology, we might have to use some soap and water, just to make sure that we get some of that specimen off, because some of them have a little bit more dangerous stuff to it. We do have an eye wash, and you can kind of see that over here on this side. It's got the shower and the eye wash. The showers are upstairs in the chemistry labs, but the freshman classrooms do have the eye wash here. That is to be used if you were to get something in your eye during a lab, which clearly we won't, because we'll be wearing the goggles that I'll provide you with, but that is there, and we would have to flush your eyes out with water for about 15 minutes to get all of that material, whatever you might have gotten into it. So it is there. We will hopefully not have to use it, but in case, and then I have to send you to the nurse too, so don't do that. In case of a fire, if you look around my classroom, you probably have noticed there's no gas lines, so that's good. However, when we want to heat up an object, and we will, because we'll be talking about things that have thermodynamics and kinetic energy and how heat can be transferred from one process to the next. So we will be heating up things, and to do that in this classroom, we use hot plates. They are pretty much just like the top of your stove at home. So you turn it on and it gets hot. It's pretty hard to cause something to catch on fire. However, there are things that we will use that are highly flammable. So we just have to make sure that we are familiar with that. I do have a fire extinguisher in the room. It's by the front door. As you come in, you should see it right there. As well as I also have a fire blanket. In case you were to catch on fire, we would wrap you in it and then drop and roll and hopefully extinguish it by that way. So those first two right there, where the fire blanket and the fire extinguisher are, they're by the front door for the classroom. And then the safety shower, we don't have one, but we do have the eye wash, which is in the back of the room. It's a big green box that literally says eye wash. Last one right here is just that it's talking about the shower once again, if that were to be the case. Once again, if you've caught yourself on fire with a hot plate, you were clearly not paying attention, and hopefully I would have gotten on you for not being a part of the group or paying attention way before you would have caught yourself on fire. But you never know, so the rule is there. Oops, sorry, went too far. All right, a couple of the other more important ones as well is this is a school rule anyway, but in the science classroom, there is no food, no drinks. I cannot have anything get contaminated. So I don't care if you have me first block, no, you cannot bring in your breakfast. If you have me third block and you're starving, I am sorry, but I have materials in my classroom that can be highly poisonous for you, and I would not want that to happen. So no food, no drinks. Water is allowed. Normally, if you have water bottles, I will just ask that you put them on the back tables or by my desk. So what to wear in a lab. So you can see there's quite a bit of appropriate things. And a lot of this is for a chemistry class where you'll be using a little bit more different types of chemicals. The ones that I probably will ask you to put on the most is going to be the goggles. I will ask to put on gloves with some of the specimens that we have that will pass around, but I do not need you to go out and purchase a lab coat or an apron. And this works especially with my geology classes. Sometimes we will be going outside, so you're going to want closed-toe shoes because the grass sometimes can be wet and it can be muddy outside. So those are kind of big things. As you can see here, we also are looking at what to wear, what to not wear in the lab. So open-toe shoes are always a no-no. We use a little bit of different things in integrated, such as at the beginning of the year, we build tracks to run cars so we can find the speed and the the acceleration, the kinetic and potential energy. So sometimes those rules, I'm not going to make you put on goggles for that. Clearly, if you get hit in the face with a Hot Wheel car, that's something that probably will hurt, but not hopefully too bad. Long hair should be tied back into a ponytail. That would be if we had the hot plates out. I might ask you to do that. And no perfume. That is for when we were to have like gas lines and stuff like that. But once again, don't have gas lines in the classroom. So wear your perfume sparingly, please. This is probably the most important right here. And I feel like as a teacher, every year there are students that come in and find that lab time is just like almost recess, where I bring out my toy bin and I get to build something, and it is fun and it hopefully makes you curious about what we're learning. But there's also behaviors too, working with your group, staying with your group, being an active member in the group are all really important things. And if you are just running around and being like, look, I built this Lego castle, and distracting other people, you're clearly not participating in what is expected. So these rules kind of go over that. So let me start with the inappropriate first, and then we'll get to some really good appropriate behavior. So first one is no horseplay, which is just joking around and kind of just being silly. Labs, once again, I think can be fun and hopefully spark curiosity with what you're doing and what we're learning. However, there's a time and the place to be silly, and sometimes when we have materials out, that is not the time or place. So always make sure you check yourself and say, am I working with my group? Does the behavior that I'm doing seem appropriate? I think no horseplaying kind of goes with all of them, but the ones below it, no tripping classmates or fooling around, horseplay again. No taste or smelling chemicals and other materials. And so I'll let you know, because there are some things that we will use in the classroom that, yeah, we actually do want to smell it. And there are actually some things I'm going to ask you to taste as well and feel. So this one is kind of on an as-need basis. There may be times that I might say, yeah, you can do that. But always make sure that I've given you permission to. So the big one is no horseplay. Make sure that you are paying attention and being an active participant in your group. Appropriate behavior. Let's talk more about things that you should be doing. So I am a mom of 2, and I clean up after them all the time. I'm still trying to train them to be more responsible as well. But I am not your mom, so you need to clean up the materials that you pull out and use during a lab. And that could be, once again, we'll be using Legos and tracks and marbles, and at some point we'll actually even be getting out like styrofoam and noodles, like pool noodles and all of these kinds of other things, which are really great. But there's going to be a time where I'm going to say, okay, we have about 15 minutes. We need to start cleaning up. And that means everyone needs to clean up. You don't just sit there and watch other people. Everyone pitches in. Show up on time. Hopefully you're on time for class. If not, you're getting swept. Leave backpacks. We don't carry backpacks, but there are times that I'll ask you to clear off your lab tables, and we will just move everything to one side of the room, normally on the tables in the back. Carry lab equipment with 2 hands. That's really important. Making sure that if we're using a microscope or beakers or graduated cylinders, is that we're carrying them very cautiously. With small classrooms, sometimes a lot of students in a class, so we have to make sure that we are just being very aware of our surroundings. Never leave a flame unattended. I'm just going to say, instead of flame, never leave a hot plate unattended. You never know. There could be a short and a malfunction, and now we've got sparks flying out of it. Or you might be boiling something, and now it's boiling over and making a huge mess. So it's always important to make sure whatever you're doing at the table is that someone is there monitoring still what is happening. Never leave a flame, no, just talked about that one. Point hot test tubes away from you. So don't be like staring over top of something and it could splash and come right up into your face. We don't want that. So always be very cautious and make sure that if you've heated something up that you're not like holding it right next to your face. Always make sure that's pointed away. And then finally, always make sure that Labe Safety and you are following the rules or the